Welcome to the Kade Wilcox Podcast. I'm Kade Wilcox, your host, and I love small business. I love the leaders who lead small businesses. I love the journey of starting a new company and figuring out how to manage people and culture and vision and operations and finances and sales and marketing. And so on our podcast, we feature local small business owners who are in the trenches and doing the work. And we learn from them what's going well, what's not going well, things they've learned throughout their journey. So thanks for joining the podcast and enjoy learning from others who are in the trenches and doing the work. Hey, Matty, thanks for joining the podcast. This is a really, really fun one for me. For those listening who don't know who Matty McLain is, Matty and I grew up together in the small but mighty and exciting Nashville, Texas. I will never forget, I was in 7th grade, you're in 8th grade. We're on one of those old yellow buses because, we didn't have anything nice in Nashville growing up. And we're driving to Matador, and we were sitting together in the bus, and we were daydreaming. We were dreaming about our spouses and what our lives would look like. And it's a memory, I'll never forget. So you remember some of those conversations?
Absolutely. I remember exactly where we were sitting on the back of that bus.
I do too. Yeah. That's crazy. Some other fun things about Matty for those listening. He's one of my longest standing friends. We went to school together. What's really funny about our story, in my opinion, is when I was in 6th grade, you were in 7th grade, we hated each other. Or at least I hated you. I don't want to put that on you. But our classes were big rivals, and then we became really good friends. And now, 20 plus years later, you're still one of my go-to friends and someone that I really admire. And then my last fun thing is you're the whole reason, Primitive exists. I mean, you're the one that had the original idea. You're the one that was the original encourager to Lacey and I to start it. You introduced us to our first client, Moore County Hospital in Dumas, Texas. First invoice, October 1st, 2011, $550.
Oh my goodness.
And so you've been a great friend and super instrumental in all that I've accomplished and what we've done kind of in our own entrepreneurial journey. So it's fun to reflect on that and then to have you on our podcast. So.
That's great. Thanks, man. You're not the only person that I have thrown out something, but now that you've done a few things in the business world, you know clearly that ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody's got them. Everybody's got a great one even, or a handful of great ones. Man, we lived in Dallas-Fort Worth for 6 years, and in that 6 years, I probably had 6 different jobs, maybe 5, but I worked for some guys that recycled cell phones and inkjet cartridges. I went to work for guys that sold airplanes and corporate jets at the airport in Denton. I went to work for a big commercial bakery. I worked somewhere for a year or year and a half, and then I was ready to I thought there's got to be something else out there. There's got to be something that's more exciting or more opportunity. And so that's what kept me chasing the next job. And then it wasn't until, 10 years ago that I kind of settled down and got into what I do now.
What influence did all those experiences have on your journey and kind of what you're doing now?
That's a good question. When you go to college and study entrepreneurship, which seems like you're going to graduate and start a business, and probably 5% of people who go through an entrepreneurial program start a business, right? Everyone goes and gets a job because, I would say for most people, in my own opinion, college is a waste of time. I think the unique thing that I had was, working with Richard Gonzalez and working with Randy and I got to hear and see and observe all those challenges, the opportunities, the good, the bad about small business ownership. And then finally just decided, you know what? You can only talk about how someone else could do it better for so long, and then you just need to go and do it yourself.
What are some things you've noticed over the years that you feel like really are common characteristics of successful business owners? Whether they're a 2-person team or 300, doesn't matter. What are some things you've seen over the 10 to 15 years you've been doing this work now?
Well, I think 2 categories. right? You have the really professional, self-employed freelancer, and there are lots and lots of those people. And that one's pretty easy, or not necessarily easy, but it's very simple, right? If you are really, really good at doing tax returns, if you're really, really good at putting roofs on houses, or driving heavy equipment, or baking cakes, and you have a decent amount of soft skills, right? You know how to talk to people, you know how to follow up, you know how to show up when you say you're going to be, and say you're going to be 30 minutes late, you know how to invoice. If you have a skill and you have some soft skills, you can go be self-employed and do fantastic, because, as you know, half the battle is just call people back and show up when you say you will, right? Other than that, if you can bake the cake or do the dry cleaning, then you're going to be fine. So there's lots of self-employed people. Then, you and I've had this discussion. If you want to morph over into, hey, I don't want to bake the cakes anymore. I want to get some other people in here to bake the cakes, and I want to run this system where I find talented people and put them in these jobs. That is a whole different category of skill set and mindset, I think. I think one of the only things that is common amongst the two is just a fanatical desire to sell your services. That's what every single one of those people has in common. Whether they call it sales or not, they're passionate about talking about it. They're passionate about asking for business. They know how to ask for business. They know how to follow up. So I think if you said, what's one thing that all these people have, it's that. They can sell their services. This is what I think. Before you have any money, you assume that most of your problems are money problems. And you think, that if you suddenly wake up and you're 25 years old and you think, my life's not going the way I wish it would, it must be someone's fault. Oh, it's my income's fault. If I made more money, then my problems would go away. And then if you make a little bit of money, you realize you're so fortunate if a problem is a money problem. But unfortunately, most of our problems have nothing to do with money. So you take money out of it, and I'm not real money motivated. I wish I was. I think that'd be easier. I have a really, really low capacity to do something where I'm not having fun and feel like I'm making headway and making a difference. We have this document that anytime anybody has an idea for a new service, a new product, a new way of doing things, it goes on the ideas list. Because, when you're small, especially if you're growing quickly, you can have lots of those things. And if you're not careful, they will bury you. So we have this ideas list, and when we get together 2 times a year, there's a lot of time spent culling through that and saying, okay, is this, someone 6 months ago had an idea for this feature because all of our clinics have issues and challenges with hiring. So we have this widget we could build that could hook up to this thing that can do this. Is this worth pursuing? Is this a painful enough problem? Do we ignore this? Do we tackle it? Do we put it on the shelf for later? So that's where we hash through all of those things. Leading edge, Boost, a relentless pursuit of adding more value to the customer. So we are always, right, we have this little system that we follow, which is if you're gonna take care of your own customers, or if you're gonna go after new customers, you follow this little cadence of always teach. So take anything you learn from any other customer in the industry and repackage it and give it to the others, because they have the same problems. So in the EDC world and in the bariatric world, so we're always teaching what we know. We used to be afraid of people stealing our stuff. We're not afraid of that anymore. You can never teach too much. You can never give away too much information. So we teach. What's the next one? We add value. So we're creating little products that we don't charge for. We're connecting them with other people in the industry that they didn't know existed. We're getting them better deals because we have large groups of clients. Number 3, what's the third one? Entertain. So I know that sounds funny, but every once in a while, you should do something human or funny or enjoyable, or right. It's not just a strictly business relationship. So we send funny socks. We send funny cards. I've had 2 clients in the last week text me and say, "You're so weird, ha ha ha." Something that no one can copy is you. So if you actually have a personality, and if you're yourself, and if you're human, and everyone knows you have kids and you have a family and you have a life, that's really hard to copy. So teach, add value, entertain, and then the 4th one, every once in a while, you can ask for something. Not often, and only when you feel like things are going well. you can say, hey, whatever that might be. Do you guys know someone else that might be a great client for us? Or hey, do you guys want to renew for another year? I do have one piece of advice for someone if they want to start a business. Be the kind of employee you want to have someday. And man, I know lots of people are not happy in their jobs and they think maybe they're going to do their own thing or they could do it better. But I promise you, do not shortchange the place you work until you're out of there. I think that speaks volumes. That sets you up for who you're going to be the rest of your life. Is if you're already halfway out, then you should go do something else because you need to do a great job of where you're at.
Man, I'm really glad to be your friend. You have added a lot of richness and meaning to my life, personally, but also in all of the things I've learned starting and running businesses. So thanks for being on this podcast. I know sometimes these types of things are not exactly what you like doing, and so after like the 5th time of me asking, I appreciate you finally saying yes.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you've always been joyfully persistent.